This is precisely the risk to which modern man is exposed. One day he may wake up and find that he has missed half his life. Psychotropic medications have become one of the most common forms of treatment for anxiety disorders and depression. But these drugs are not very good at healing people. And often they become just crutches for a person to live the rest of his life as a psychological cripple. Fortunately, there are alternative ways to treat anxiety and depression. In this video we look to the works of Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychiatrists in history, for advice on how to find cures for these psychological disorders without the use of drugs. The elite medical community still firmly holds the view that anxiety disorders are caused by changes in the brain. Unfortunately, many mediocre doctors are still fixated on this belief to the detriment of their patients, of whom our age produces whole hordes. Almost all of these patients believed in the medical dogma that their illness was physical in nature. Jung believed that most cases of anxiety and depression are not the result of defects in the functioning of the brain, but of an unhealthy lifestyle. Therefore, the first step in Jung's treatment methodology was not to prescribe drugs, but to express psychological insights and assumptions about what a person expects from life, and about what needs to be done to change. Regarding the first, Jung noted that many people believe that life should be easy. Suffering is kept to a minimum and difficulties are avoided. But Jung was frank with his patients, telling them that life is by no means easy, and comfort and peace are not our natural state. Or as Jung himself wrote, by and large, there is practically no hope for the emergence of a form of therapy that will once and for all rid a person of all his problems. Person needs difficulties, they are necessary for his health. We only care about unnecessary problems. Accepting that difficulties are inevitable and nothing worthwhile comes easy puts us on solid ground in reality, and allows us to make changes. Because when we accept the fact that life is not easy, we also understand that it is only by strengthening our own character that we have the chance to live our best life. If we remain in the delusion that life should be easy, we will not have the intention or will have less motivation to overcome our weaknesses, to eradicate the shortcomings of our own character, because we would pointlessly hope that if we just give ourselves time, then life will become easier. Life is a battlefield. It always has been and always will be, and if not, then life will stop. There is another piece of psychological wisdom that Jung considered vital for his patients to understand. Our problems exist in the present, and real problems are not solved by endlessly digging into our past. Many people like to believe that only when they figure out why they are the way they are will they be able to move forward in life. But Jung believed that being overly focused on the past is just an avoidance tactic, used to avoid facing the need to do and change things right now. People should know that not only a neurotic, but every person naturally prefers never to look for the causes of any inconvenience in himself. Move them as far as possible from yourself in space and time. Otherwise, he risks being faced with the need to change the situation for the better. Compared to this odious risk, it seems infinitely more advantageous either to shift the blame onto someone else, or if the blame is undeniably self-inflicted, at least to assume that it somehow arose spontaneously in early childhood. Jung was moving on to the first effective step in his method of treatment, to help his patients come face to face with what he called the shadow. For as he writes, to treat consciousness it is necessary to bring it together with the shadow, and this meeting in fact is the first prerequisite for any psychotherapeutic method. The shadow is a Jungian term for elements of our character that we deny and repress into the unconscious due to shame, infidelity, or judgment. In other words, this is the side of our personality that we want to hide from others, as well as from ourselves. There is no doubt that a person as a whole is less good than he imagines or wants to be. Everyone has a shadow, and the less it is embodied in a person's conscious life, the darker and denser it is. For several reasons, Jung believed that a person's encounter with his own shadow is crucial in the process of changing himself. First, by denying the worst aspects of our personality, we are not doing anything good for ourselves. We are simply losing control over how and when these traits manifest themselves. On the other hand, if we recognize some character flaw, we can learn to control it and thereby minimize the damage it causes to our lives. As Jung explains, everything conscious can be corrected, but everything that slips into the unconscious cannot be corrected, and because it grows unchecked, it undergoes degeneration. Fortunately, nature ensures that the contents of the unconscious sooner or later break through into consciousness and create the necessary confusion. But the shadow consists not only of weaknesses and negative character traits. Moreover, it also contains strengths that we may have suppressed since our youth, due to the fact that we are given the false impression by our peers, family members, or society at large that these traits are bad. Some people, for example, suppress their ability to express anger or their ability to stand up for themselves. It turns out that another benefit of becoming aware of our own shadow is that we will gain access to character traits that contribute to improving our lives. As Jung writes, the shadow is just the lower, primitive, maladapted, and clumsy part of our personality, but definitely bad. It even contains qualities that, in a certain sense, can enliven and decorate a person's existence. But it's impossible, it's just the way it is. One way to become aware of our shadow is to observe the weaknesses, shortcomings, and insecurities of those close to us. After all, most of us not only suppress similar character traits, but also tend to project elements of their own shadow onto other people. Therefore, if we pay attention to what character traits of our friends and loved ones bother us, we may see our own shadow. Besides observing other people, there is another way to bring the shadow into the light of consciousness. Reflect on the motives of our actions, especially those we are ashamed of, and be open to self-criticism when it is truly justified. After all, as Jung notes, often the only thing that prevents us from seeing our shadow is the ability to be honest with ourselves. To quote Jung, the shadow can be seen with some self-criticism, since its nature is personal. Along with awareness of the shadow, another integral aspect of Jung's treatment methods was helping patients find meaning in their lives. Jung believed that if a patient is stuck in a deep depression or suffering from an anxiety disorder, then healing requires discovering one's own role as one of the actors in the divine drama of life. To understand what is meant by this, we can look to Jung's encounter with a Pueblo chief in the first half of the 20th century. Jung was discussing the traditions of his tribe with this man when the chief made the following remark. "Yes, we are a small tribe, and the Americans want to interfere in our religious life. But they should not do this because we are the children of the sun, the Father, the one who walks there pointing to the sun. Every day we must help him rise above the horizon and move across the sky. And we do this not only for ourselves, we do this for America and for the whole world." Jung understood that for many modern people this statement would sound wild and archaic. But, as he further notes, the members of this tribe did not suffer as we suffer. They were not susceptible to neuroses, anxiety disorders, or depression. They did not stuff themselves with pills every day and did not suffer from addictions. On the contrary, this tribe consisted of highly functional individuals who saw themselves as doing their own duty in the divine drama of life, and their lives were richly filled with meaning and purpose. As Jung wrote about it, "These people have no problems, they have their daily life, their symbolic life. They wake up before dawn with a sense of great mission and responsibility. They are the children of the sun, the Father, and their daily duty is to help the Father descend over the horizon, not only for yourself but for the whole world. You should see these brothers. They have a natural, full sense of self-worth." Jung compares this lifestyle to the experience of meeting a Western woman. As Jung notes, she was obsessive in her travels, constantly moving from one place to another, always in search. But I never found what I was looking for. Jung writes that he was amazed when he looked into her eyes. The eyes of a prowling animal pressed against the wall. Search, eternal search in hope of something. She was almost possessed. But why did this happen? Because she was living a life that had no meaning. Her life was extremely banal, grotesquely vulgar, poor and meaningless. A life in which there was not even anything to cling to. If she had been killed today, then nothing would have happened, nothing would have disappeared because she was nothing. Many people in the modern world are sick with this obsessive search. Someone is running from one destination to another. Some people chase romantic partners. Some people are obsessed with seeking money, prestige, fame, or recognition on social media. But whatever external form it takes, the basic motivation is the same. The seeker tries to escape from the banality of his own existence. They seek to fill the emptiness that comes from a meaningless life. But as Jung explains, this emptiness cannot be remembered by things or even by experience. It is filled only by the realization that we live a life that affects something. And as he writes about the same woman, but if she could say, I am the daughter of the moon, every night I must help the moon, my mother, descend over the horizon. That would be something. Then she would have lived. Then her life would have meaning. It had meaning throughout its entire length and for all humanity. When people feel that they are living a symbolic life, that they are actors in a divine drama, it brings peace. This gives the only meaning to human life. Everything else is banal, and it can be discarded. Career, production of offspring, all this is Maya compared to the fact that your life has meaning. Jung did not suggest that we all adopt the mythology of the Pueblo Indians. His point was that many people suffer because their lives doesn't make sense, and the task of those who want to get rid of anxiety or depression is to find this meaning. In other words, we must find a way to justify our existence so that we, like Pueblo, could believe that our lives have meaning. For some, this can be achieved through religion, for others by making a significant contribution to the maintenance of values such as justice, freedom, or connectedness and support. Still others find it in creativity. But for most of us who live in a world without a dominant mythology, it is up to us and we alone to understand how we can play a meaningful role in the divine drama of life. For the few who rise to the challenge, living a fulfilling life will determine their future. For many who cannot cope, the fate will be years or decades of meaningless suffering and obsessive searching. I am concerned only with the realization of what is in every person, Jung wrote. This is the whole problem. The Pueblo Indian problem. Everything I do today, necessary so that my father could rise above the horizon. The role of religious symbols is precisely to make people's lives meaningful. The Pueblo Indians believe that they are the sons of the Sun Father, and this faith gives their lives a fullness and purposefulness that goes far beyond their meager existence. This gives them wide scope to develop as individuals and provides them with a full-blooded and fulfilling life. Their situation in this sense is infinitely more normal than that of a person living in our civilized days, who realizes that he is only a loser, whose life is devoid of any meaning and will remain so.